ESPN's College GameDay in Morgantown on 9/13 for the Backyard Brawl. Oh, how sweet that would be. But is it a legitimate possibility? Well, according to college football analyst and well-known co-host on that show, Kirk Herbstreit, it should happen. But is the Backyard Brawl a worthy rivalry for week 3 with a ton of other competition to be on the show? And is it popular enough? Do people care enough outside of Pittsburgh and West Virginia to have the Backyard Brawl on College GameDay? What other possibilities could there be? I'll share my opinions, those games, and we'll break down that rivalry. Plus, Jesus is coming to Morgantown. No. Let me clarify. Jesus in Cleats is coming to Morgantown. Still confused? Well, probably so. I'll explain what I mean later on to wrap up the show. First, a welcome into another special edition of Couz's Corner. I'm not Couz. You probably know that by now. And you likely know who I am from my time on the Gold and Blue Breakdown show here and an episode of the Martin's Mailbag that I did just a couple of days ago right here on the channel. I'm Jonathan Martin, and I'm once again filling in for our friend Couz while he's on another vacation. I did notice in the comments on the last video that I did for him earlier this week, just a couple of days ago, there were some comments there that suggested maybe he took a little too much time on vacation. Couz, I don't know what to tell you. We're taking over the channel. But hey, all joking aside, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure to fill in. I hope you guys are enjoying the content that I've been able to bring to the channel, to the show, and hopefully, I've been able to continue the trend of serving up that top shelf news and analysis that Couz always liked to say right here on his channel, Couz's Corner. Hey, do us a favor. Once again, if you need reminded, he's on vacation. Do me a favor. Like and comment on this show. I know that really helps the channel out. I'll hop in, communicate back and forth with you if you want to ask some additional questions. Also, hey, if you're not subscribed to the channel, I'm not sure what you're waiting on. It's free. And it really does help him out. Couz would probably kill me for saying this, but what the heck? I know he's on a mission to get to 10,000 subscribers here on YouTube. He is so darn close. And it would be pretty cool if we all had a little bit of help and a little something to do with him getting there. We've got a ton of content scheduled coming up right before football season. Heck, don't blink. That's right around the corner. Practice starts here in just 3 weeks or so. So be on the lookout for that. Let's get Couz, do our part to get him to 10,000 subscribers. So the Backyard Brawl, we're going to start there. This was a pretty hot topic. I'm recording. This show is actually coming out on Friday, and I believe it was on Wednesday on the Pat McAfee show. Herbstreit made an appearance and was actually the conversation began. If those who aren't familiar with it, the conversation began when they were discussing West Virginia's new football recruit commitment, a running back, and his name is SirPaul Cheeks. Spoiler alert. That's who I was talking about. If you don't know, calls himself Jesus in Cleats. I'll discuss why that is here a little bit later on. But they were discussing football, and as our friend Pat McAfee loves to do, oftentimes he had to get that plug in about West Virginia, and so they were discussing SirPaul Cheeks. And Kirk Herbstreit actually took the opportunity to sing the praises of Rich Rodriguez and the trajectory of the football program. And so they decided to pop up the schedule for West Virginia. And that kind of led to the conversation about ESPN's College GameDay. First, I'll say Kirk Herbstreit was extremely complimentary of Rich Rodriguez. Going back to the running back, he talked about, hey, if Rich Rodriguez recruited him, he's a great player. And he went on to say that it was a new era in Morgantown and that Herbstreit was officially on the bandwagon of West Virginia because of Rich Rodriguez. And he said to me, I'm all in. I'm all in on West Virginia and Rich Rodriguez. So the conversation continued a little bit more with McAfee and Herbstreit. They discussed the transfer portal. They talked about the players that were coming in and out and how West Virginia's turnover was a little bit larger because of the players that Rodriguez wanted for the system. So then they transitioned over to West Virginia's schedule for the upcoming season. And they noted the third week game against in the Backyard Brawl against Pitt. And that was where the discussion really got interesting, and it piqued a lot of people's interest because Herbstreit pretty much said, hey, Pitt's a home game. It's on 9/13. And McAfee was all in, obviously, but Herbstreit did not hesitate to make his case for ESPN's pregame show to return. And he said, plain and simply, yeah, we've got to go. We've got to do this. We've got to get back to West Virginia. And we've got to have College GameDay come to Morgantown. Of course, West Virginia has hosted College GameDay twice. Last year, not College GameDay, but they did host the Pat McAfee show, Fox's coverage there. But obviously, ESPN's version, GameDay, the original, is the most popular. And so that sparked a lot of debate about is the Backyard Brawl worthy? Is it worthy of having College GameDay in Morgantown? Week 3 here was my first thought was, yeah, absolutely. It's the Backyard Brawl. We're plugged in, right? If you're watching this show, in all likelihood, you're a West Virginia fan. You follow the team, you follow the coverage, you know the ins and outs. You know your thoughts on Rich Rodriguez coming back. You know your thoughts on Pitt football. And you know what the Backyard Brawl means to you. And the same could be said for someone that is a Pitt fan. They understand Rich Rodriguez. They understand what the Backyard Brawl, what it is, what it means. And I can assure you they would take no greater pleasure than to come into Morgantown and try and beat West Virginia, especially with College GameDay there. So Pitt wants that. They're looking forward to it. So if you're West Virginia and if you're Pitt fans, if you're West Virginia and Pitt people, the game means a lot to you. But the question is, do enough people care outside of these two schools to have College GameDay in Morgantown in week 3? Week 3 is early enough to where you have a lot of competition for that game. If you look at the schedule for College GameDay as it goes into, say, week 6, 7, 8 plus, those matchups shrink just a little bit. There's always one or two conference games that really pique interest. You especially in like the SEC or the Big Ten. You get that number 2, number 4, number 5, number 6, or even just top 10, top 15 matchups. And so there's always one or two. But in week 3, you have enough. You still have out of conference games, and you're pitting teams that typically don't play each other, or there are some rivalries like the Backyard Brawl that play early in the season that are going to be vying for that spot. So I think the first thing we have to do is we have to assess, is the Backyard Brawl worthy? Number one. And if we can come to the conclusion that it is worthy enough, and if the schedules match up enough, then I think we've got to take a look at what competition does West Virginia and Pitt have for that game, as I discussed in week 3. There's going to be a lot. And you know that the SEC, you know that the Big Ten, some of these are vying for that spot. They always are. They're always involved. And the Big 12, and to that point, even the ACC doesn't get as much or as many options or opportunities to have the show come to their campus. So the first thing we'll say is the rivalry worth it? Is it good enough to have it? I'm obviously in the middle of it, and I'm in that proverbial bubble that I talked about with West Virginia and Pitt, but absolutely it's worth it. First off, the Backyard Brawl to me is one of the most hard-fought, most hatred, most intriguing matchups every year, regardless of schedules, regardless of how good one team is or the other isn't. It doesn't matter. It always brings that. I'd go back a couple years ago, and I probably should have done the homework on this, or at least tried to find out. But a couple years ago, when West Virginia went back to Pitt, it was the game where Neil Brown decided to punt the ball at midfield instead of going for it. If you look back, and even last year, last couple years, really, if you compare the audience and if you compare the numbers, the viewers, to other games that week, the Backyard Brawl consistently runs higher or up there with the other teams, the other games that have been played that week. So it's not just a regional thing between the two schools, between that mileage between the schools. It's not just in West Virginia. It's not just in Pennsylvania. A lot of eyes are on that game. And so I think it's worth it to have the game day show in Morgantown. Could you imagine Pat McAfee coming back as part of game day with that game? I would also say, and this one's going to hurt a little bit for West Virginia people, but with Rich Rod back at West Virginia, you can't help but to bring up the last game for Rodriguez at home against Pitt. In fact, Rich Rodriguez has called it the worst night of his professional career. Nothing comes close to it. That's Rich Rod's words. And then you start looking at the guys that, that are still around the program today, that were in that game, involved in that game. So even though the Backyard Brawl will not be Rich Rodriguez's first home game since returning back to West Virginia, that's obviously the season opener against Robert Morris. You can't tell me between the two programs and nationally that people aren't intrigued from the 13-9 game in 2007. Again, it was Rich Rodriguez admittedly says it was the worst night of his professional career. Nothing comes close to it. You can't run into a West Virginia fan that says, stop, don't talk about it. In fact, Couz and I on this show have even made jokes when this game has come up. We've said, hey, stop. And we've even commented before as well that we're extremely close to getting to our season breakdowns, game by game breakdowns. We're going to do some depth chart things, but we've even said when we get to this game, you cannot discuss this game 13-9 was the score. It just happens to take place on 9/13. You can't help but to bring up 2007. Everybody knows it. It's the elephant in the room. Not many people want to talk about it. But Pitt fans are going to try and rub that in. You know they're bringing that energy. And West Virginia fans want redemption. They want their opportunity again. And you know who else wants their opportunity? You're never going to be able to fully get it back, right? I mean, the obvious here is Rich Rodriguez. A win this season doesn't undo 2007, but it is a chance to it's a chance to soften that blow just a little bit in terms of, hey, I got him back. I came back to do a couple things, but this is one that he wants to check off of his list. Rich Rodriguez has even at times since he's been back at West Virginia talked about this game and says that not a day goes by. Not a day goes by. And so it's an opportunity to get a little payback. The downside to it as well is, what if West Virginia loses? So it's a double whammy, right? I mean, you lost 13-9. You lost your national championship or title game hopes in 2007. Time goes by, you cast yourself off, you go do your own thing at other schools, you return to West Virginia, it's all good. You play Pitt the third game of the year, you get them at home, it happens to be on 9/13 and you lose. That's a tough one to recover from. And it does ask, you have to ask yourself, because it begs the question, there still may be a couple West Virginia fans or some West Virginia fans are on the fence. And so if you happen to lose that game, it's a here we go. Can't do it. He can't do it. So there is a lot of intrigue, not just internally between the two schools, but there's a lot of intrigue surrounding this game because of what happened in 2007 and because of the 13-9, 9/13 when this game been played. So for me, when I think about the rivalry, I think in this bubble that I'm in, that if you're likely in as well, you see the value in this game. The spirit, the rivalry, the hatred in this game. But because of some of these other things that are now this year being brought into it, I think the intrigue is there. I thought it was a little funny that this game was brought up because we're here on Couz's channel, but the Athletics, Scott, I think it was Doctorman, if I'm pronouncing that right, again, of The Athletic, recently released a list of his top 100 rivalries in college football. And there was probably one thing. There's not many things that would unite West Virginia and Pitt fans, but this one did. This united both fan bases. The Backyard Brawl didn't crack. It wasn't in the top 25. I believe it was actually just outside, in fairness. It was number 26. And so Couz actually had Scott Doctorman, again, hopefully I'm pronouncing that last name correct, on his show. And I would encourage you to go back and listen to his explanation. It was a great interview. Scott actually detailed not just the Backyard Brawl, but what went into ranking the rivalries. And while I didn't necessarily agree with Scott and the reasoning behind why the Backyard Brawl was left out, there were two things that were highlighted for him. One of it was a decade-long hiatus. That was number one. I think it was 2012 to 2021 where West Virginia and Pitt didn't play. There was the conference realignment, Pitt obviously to the ACC, West Virginia to the Big 12. There was a gap. And I think he said, hey, for 10 years, I think the words that he described it wasn't important enough to work it into a schedule, so how could it be one of the top rivalries? I see Scott's point there, but I semi-disagree. I don't necessarily think the hiatus there was a lot of moving parts with conference realignment, and I think what makes a rivalry so great is not just the athletic directors that schedule the games, but the fans that pour into it. And the other excuse, that's the wrong word. The other reasoning behind it was lack of ranked matchups. And he talked about how the Backyard Brawl has seen there were only 6 games where both teams were ranked, and just 20 where at least one team was ranked. And he compared that to some other schools, other rivalries where there was more ranked head-to-head matchups, and so he felt like it meant more. So when you take someone like the Athletic who kind of dissed the Backyard Brawl a little bit, that rejuvenates West Virginia and Pitt fans. Not that they needed it. There's so much hatred in this rivalry, but it did maybe fan a flame or two for some people. So I thought that was a little bit more reasoning maybe why this should be played. And so I look at it and I just say to myself, hey, here's the deal. I think West Virginia, the rivalry, internally it means a lot. You add in the X factors of Rodriguez's return and what happened the last time, I think it draws more people in. Then if the rivalry wasn't included in a top 25, maybe that drew a little backlash and kick-started it just a little bit more. And I'd say as well that I think both schools, and one interesting part about it too is I think both schools have a legitimate chance. They'll both be 2-0 going into the game. I think Pitt has Duquesne and Central Michigan. Before they come to Morgantown, West Virginia has Robert Morris in Ohio. So anything can happen. I wouldn't anticipate both schools to be 1-1 or 0-2. I think they'll be 2-0. And then week 4, that third week will propel them in. Week 4, I think Pitt plays Louisville and opens up ACC conference, and West Virginia goes on the road to Kansas, who is opening up a new stadium, and both schools will open up Big 12 play. So there's a lot of reasoning for the schools to be. They'll be 2-0, I believe. An opportunity to go 3-0 as they go into conference play. So a lot on the line. So I feel like those are the reasonings why I think it should happen. But as I noted at the very beginning, I think we've got to see who's the competition, right? So when you look at this, you look at the rundown of who they could go against. There's a wide range of games. I'm going to try my best to minimize these a little bit, okay? Some of them, a Vanderbilt and South Carolina, I just don't see it. A Minnesota and Cal, I just don't see it. Clemson, Georgia Tech, Oregon Northwestern, Boston College, and Stanford. I just don't see those, right? So I'm going to try and narrow these down a little bit to some that I think could get in the way. Arkansas and Ole Miss, ironically enough, a lot of these are SEC games and conference matchups. It looks like Arkansas and Ole Miss. It looks like Wisconsin, Alabama. There's some conference matchups in week 3 that are intriguing to me. USC at Purdue. I don't know that Purdue gets that game. Georgia at Tennessee could possibly sneak in that game. The thing about the SEC games is, listen, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to fool you. I think if you look at, I don't know as much Arkansas, Ole Miss, but if you threw in a Wisconsin and Alabama, maybe. Throw in a Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, LSU, Texas A&M, Notre Dame. Those are some games that I could legitimately see going ahead of the Backyard Brawl. The only case for West Virginia and Pitt would be if you'll take a look at these schools, Ole Miss, if you look at Alabama, if Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, LSU, even Texas A&M and Notre Dame, there are going to be multiple opportunities as the season goes on for those teams to be showcased on game day. And so while I understand SEC fans are going to scream, we are much more important than the Backyard Brawl. I think there's going to be other opportunities for them to be on. And so I legitimately believe that the Backyard Brawl in week 3, I agree with Kirk Herbstreit. I think they need to be in Morgantown with Pat McAfee. And let's do this thing. Let's do it. The excitement around this game every year, but this year in particular is off the charts. And can't wait to be a part of it. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with me it should be played? Or can we just say, hey, we have to be honest with ourselves. I think there's better games. I'd be interested in what you think, so drop a comment. Let me know. I'll definitely interact with you there. And I'm actually curious on your feedback. Really am. So let me know what you think. Switching gears of where this all kind of started with Pat McAfee and Kirk Herbstreit, Jesus is coming to Morgantown. That's Jesus in Cleats coming to Morgantown. Chesterfield, Virginia, running back SirPaul Cheeks has committed to West Virginia. It happened earlier this week. This young man is blazing, guys. 4.3 speed. And it was ironic that the entire conversation with McAfee started because of the name SirPaul, Jesus in Cleats, Cheeks. 5'9", 185 pounds. This is always nice. Speaking of the Backyard Brawl, it's ironic that we just talked about it. Cheeks chose West Virginia over a handful of schools, Minnesota, Kentucky, Virginia Tech, but Pitt was one of the schools. He originally was going to make that decision on July the 1st, but actually delayed it a couple of weeks just to make sure. Took an official visit to West Virginia, I believe in June. And wanted to take a little bit of time to stew on it and to make a decision. Hey, let me tell you, SirPaul Cheeks is his numbers are eye-popping. Last year, as a junior, 591 yards, 10 touchdowns, 10.9 yards per carry. That's unbelievable. 3-star prospect by 247 Sports. I think his overall rating was 87. They rank him the 41st best running back in the country, 18th best overall prospect in the state of Virginia. Virginia has a lot of talent. That state tends to churn out players. And so West Virginia, especially under Rich Rodriguez during his tenure here, years ago, was extremely successful in Virginia. So it's good to see the Mountaineers back in that state. Cheeks is the third running back committed to West Virginia. And here's what is pretty interesting to me. He joins Christopher Talley out of Memphis, Tennessee, and Jet Walker out of Georgetown, Texas. They're Tally and Cheeks are pretty similar in terms of size and speed. They're almost scat backish. They're going to just hit. I mean, that 4.3 speed. When you think 4.3 speed and you think Rich Rodriguez offense, it puts a smile on your face. You get pretty excited by that. And so Cheeks and Tally mimic each other a little bit, I believe. Jet Walker out of Texas is an intriguing one. I think he's 6'2", 215. He's got more size, more muscle, more strength about him. While I don't want to take anything away from him, he does have the speed. He's a ground and pound type guy. And so just a good combination of running backs in this class. And unless something happens in this class, I would imagine that 3 running backs is about all they'll take for the class of 2026. So I think that's probably going to do it for them there. But just a good mix of size, speed, athleticism for the Mountaineers. And again, if Rich Rod is seeing these guys, I've seen some comparisons with Cheeks and Noel Devine. When you see the size, when you see the muscle, the strength on this young man, when you see him be able to get out on the edge and to hit the holes and just take off, it's easy to draw comparisons. And ironically enough, if all things stay the same, Devine will be on staff and be able to work with him, and what a combination that'll be. So, well, hey, guys, that's going to about do it for me. I appreciate y'all tuning in. If I could, just real quick, again, I just want to say, hey, it's been a blast. I've enjoyed it. I would have never thought going back to last year that I would enjoy putting this face in front of this camera and talking to you guys, but it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. It's something that I know Couz is as well, and I'm passionate about West Virginia, and I wanted to help him do my part to keep the lights on. He deserves a vacation, so I'm hoping he is living it up in some sunshine somewhere and enjoying some good quality family time. I've enjoyed it. Again, if you wouldn't mind, if you could just like the video, comment on the video. I know right by his channel name there's a subscribe button. Those are just some free things you can do. I've learned a little bit in the YouTube space from doing the Golden Blue Breakdown show. That algorithm really picks up on those comments, those likes. Those are some easy things that you guys can do to help us out. If you would like to follow me, I'll do a shameless plug here. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm most active on X. It's at Jonathan K. Martin. That's JONATHAN. K. Martin, there's no H in Jonathan. You can follow me on social media over there at Twitter. Make sure you follow the website, wvsportschat.com, or on X there, Facebook. It's all WV Sports Chat. And then the website, wvsportschat.com. Make sure you follow us over there. We're trying to do our best professional coverage, we like to say, with a fan perspective. And so we're trying to bring it right to you. May not always be first. We all work full-time jobs, but we try and bring that news, that analysis to you as quickly as possible. So I think my time here is up. Not sure when you'll see me again. Don't know if that's a good thing. Don't know if that's a bad thing. But I've enjoyed it. And until next time, let's go Mountaineers and cue Country Roads.